Sound the alarms. Spencer Rattler was really good at football today. We got all that and a little bit of land for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a senior writer and reporter over at Saints News Network on SI. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, we're going to take a look at the energy, the vibes of New Orleans Saints training camp day 4 were absolutely immaculate. It was so much fun to watch. We're going to break that down. We're also going to take a look at how the run game is coming along and how coaching is helping it all happen. Because I got to tell you, this is not the same coaching staff that the New Orleans Saints have had in the past, especially on the offensive side of the football. And we're going to kick things off, taking a look at Spencer Rattler, who showed up and showed out along with the New Orleans Saints offense today as the New Orleans Saints wrap up training camp day 4 here in Irvine, California. We appreciate you very much for joining us, whether you're joining us live or you're listening later. We appreciate you very much for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer here on the Locked On Saints podcast, which is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn wants to help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. So post your job for free today at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, it was Spencer Rattler's day here in Irvine, California, as the New Orleans Saints took the field for training camp day 4. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves here on this show. We're not going to do that. This is what this is, all right? Spencer Rattler had a fantastic day. I'm going to tell you all about the fantastic day that he had, but I'm going to curve some things real quick. We're not talking about a quarterback competition, all right? Just because one quarterback looked good for a day doesn't mean that all of a sudden your $35+ million quarterback isn't going to be the guy. Derek Carr, for all intents and purposes, only completed 3 of his 7 passes today, but still had a good day, believe it or not, completing on some big stuff himself. But let's lean into a little bit of the training camp hype and have some fun here. Spencer Rattler looked really good. The big highlight for him came during team drills. Big welcome to everybody. Appreciate you being here. Came in from team drills, a big 40-yard completion between him and Yale grad Mason Tipton, right? Undrafted free agent rookie Mason Tipton, who's got burners, dude's got speed on speed on speed. He and Rattler connected twice, actually, for 2 separate big plays. One was off the play action pass over the top. That was the big touchdown to Mason Tipton. Really, really good stuff when it came to that one. The other came in team drills later on when he completed a pass to Mason Tipton over on the left sideline. Mason Tipton with a great catch, kind of a little bit of a toe tap, toe drag swag, if you will, over there. But the thing that I really actually loved about that play, even though it didn't go for a big touchdown or anything like that, is that the ball was placed extremely well, and it had to be. You had 2 defenders that were in the area, both of which on the inside of the receiver. So the ball had to be placed over the top and then come down, and Mason Tipton did a wonderful job keeping that concentration, not letting all the traffic, all the stuff that was going on around him distract him, making the catch, and then keeping the 2 feet in bounds, received a ton of cheers. Keith Williams, I thought was going to fall over. He came running out as quickly as he could from the line, like the back line, where all the people that are rotating in and out typically wait, celebrating and, doing all this kind of stuff. I got to tell you, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but the vibes were insane during today's practice in like the best way possible. And I think they have a long way to go too, in terms of what those vibes can be, but it was really good. It was really good to see. And I think we'll see more as they get into next week, which we'll break down here in a little bit. Spencer Rattler took second team reps today. Remember, they're going to continue to rotate that. So Rattler took those today. Then you'll see Haener probably move back into there for a little bit and all that too. So I wouldn't get too married to, oh, this one took second team reps, this one took third team reps and stuff like that. That's all going to continue to change as they go through. again, don't get too excited about this. I know there's a lot of Rattler fans. There's a lot of Haener fans and stuff like that. These guys are busting their tails. And of course, Haener's doing it in the midst of a recent skin cancer diagnosis, not life-threatening, but is working on figuring out what that treatment plan is going to look like. So obviously that is above football, everything else. We hope the best for Jake Haener in terms of managing all of that. But these two guys are continuing to battle. And the fun thing about really watching them too is that not only are they battling, but like they're talking to one another. They're working with Derek Carr. They're working with Andrew Janoko, all this kind of stuff. So you can see the camaraderie in there, even though they're competing with one another. And I think that's something that we have seen across the board, whether it's corner, whether it's on the offensive line, whether it's on the defensive line. Guys that you might look at that are competing, they're working on helping one another as well, trying to get everybody kind of in there and everything like that, kind of get everybody kind of hyped up, caught up to speed, however it is that you want to look at it. So he completed 7 of his 9 passes today for a touch, and one of them was for a touchdown. As I mentioned, Carr completed 3 of 7 passes. I think that number would be a little bit overblown, though. There were a couple of drops that were well-placed passes and things like that. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. And there was one to where he actually had Rashid Shaheed running down the field on what I believe was a post route deep down the field. And I'm going to get to Rashid Shaheed in just a little bit, but you want to talk about a guy that just keeps making play after play after play. No surprise, it's been Rashid Shaheed. I said during the offseason, we got to respect Rashid Shaheed's gangsta. And he's out here in Cali. He's close to his friends, his family, all that kind of stuff. Lovely, incredible family support system that he has out here. And he was out there showing out today, which was really nice. But it was the first time I've ever seen him overthrown, right? Like, typically, I didn't think it was possible to overthrow Rashid Shaheed, but one of them got away from him and Derek Carr, but still found his way to get open down there. And you can see that the two were on the same page in terms of what they wanted to get there. There was another really good one from Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed with Paulson Adebo in coverage. Really good blocks on for Cesar Ruiz as well as Trevor Penning. There was also a fantastic pass blocking set from Taliesin Fuanga, New Orleans Saints rookie cornerback, rookie offensive tackle, who's still starting over on the left side. We spoke with Eric McCoy after practice today. Eric McCoy said he's one of the best rookie offensive linemen he's ever worked with, he's ever seen. And so he kept saying, like, I don't want to hype him up, but I think he's going to be a lockdown guy and stuff like that. So real big vote of confidence from the leader of your offensive line in Eric McCoy. But on that rep, the thing that I really liked was that as Derek Carr hit Rashid Shaheed, it was on a slant route. And remember, there were a lot. First of all, Saints didn't target a lot of slant routes at all last year, but when they did, there was a little bit of struggle there sometimes to where it was kind of thrown behind the receiver and stuff like that. I think it was still over 70% of those slant routes that were completed. So it's not like it was a huge detriment, but there were big moments to where that pass on a slant wasn't placed where it needed to be and stuff like that. So it was good to see him be able to hit Rashid Shaheed and his incredible speed in stride, and then watch the yards after catch come after that. But so, when I talk about how good Spencer Rattler's day was, I don't want to diminish the good things that we did see from Derek Carr, have seen from Derek Carr over the course of the past few days. But it was really Spencer Rattler that just looked fantastic today. So really, really good stuff from the rookie quarterback who's looking to show, like, hey, he's not going to get a starting role here in 2024, but he's looking to show that he can be the backup behind Derek Carr. And he's looking to show that he could be the future after Derek Carr as well, because the Saints have to be ready for that. And they've made a big time philosophical change about how they acknowledge and work on their offensive line room, their quarterback room, and their quarterback future. And so that's been really, really good to see. So these younger quarterbacks having big days is still a very, very good thing for this New Orleans Saints offense. So really, really like what I saw there. Coming up next, I want to take a look at the run game as well, because the run game looked really good. And I want to explain to you how it is that slip covers and boxing gloves made a massive difference for the New Orleans Saints run game today. We got that coming up for you as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything that you need to help you level your vehicle up to peak performance, superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 parts for your ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for at ebaymotors.com. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to take your car up to that MVP level and bring home some huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive today by visiting ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guarantee fit available only to U.S. customers. All right, family. The run game got going big time today, as well as the New Orleans Saints have 2 big days on offense following 2 big days on defense. But don't worry, the defense still got a takeaway today. So we're going to break all of that down here as we continue on and look at some other notes from today's day of training camp. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us your first listen of the day every day. We'll have another episode for you tomorrow morning. The Saints are off tomorrow, but I'm still going to drop an episode just to give you more insight, more reactions from today's practice. And then Monday morning, before the padded practice kicks off, we're going to dive into a little bit of what we're looking for with the padded practices, what we're going to learn that we haven't seen so far. And in tomorrow's episode too, I'll kind of look at the entire week. Has what we've seen this week impacted my outlook on the 2024 New Orleans Saints season? I'm going to explain to you all of that in tomorrow's episode. So the next thing I want to do here today, oh, and by the way, in the midst of all that, if you're looking for something else to check out today, Locked On Pelicans, Locked On LSU, giving you everything you need to know around Locked On Louisiana. So I want to go into the run game here today because, look, the New Orleans Saints are finally going to be going into padded practices on Monday. So they're going to have the day off tomorrow. Then they go into padded practices on Monday. Up until then, what we're really looking at, or what we've been seeing so far, is kind of, these shorts and shells practices where you can't really get a lot of ideas around how effective the new run game is, and then you approach the run game is, and all these other things. But today, that was kind of different. I thought that we saw some big runs from the New Orleans Saints offense. There was a big one by Jordan Mims. We saw a little bit of a wrinkle put in. I talked about respecting Rashid Shaheed's gangsta. He had a little bit of an end around today that they tried as well off of a play action. So I really enjoyed what we were seeing from these guys. I do want to highlight, though, I mentioned in yesterday's episode, or rather this morning's episode, how running back coach Derek Foster has brought in some interesting things in terms of trying to simulate real game impact, real game flow in situations into these training camp practices, so that by the time that these running backs get to the game, they're going to be doing things that feel similar to what they were doing in practices, and what they're doing in practices feels similar to what they experience in games. A lot of benefits to that. But the thing that I'm looking at next today is that while the Saints wide running backs were working on their individual drills, they had these black slip covers that they placed over the footballs. And so the idea, I talked to a great person that helped me understand a little bit more and everything as well. The idea was to kind of simulate a wet ball, right? So you put those slip covers. I don't know if you remember these like I do. I might be dating myself a little bit here, but these slip covers are like those nylon slip covers that you would put over like textbooks and notebooks and stuff like that when you were in school, and they were kind of like silky almost. Maybe I don't know anything about materials. I mean, I pretend like I know anything about materials here, but they had those. And so it just kind of took away the grippiness of a football because this black slip cover went over. So it simulates a wet football. But beyond that, they also weighted the footballs. And I'm not talking no Tom Brady, but I'm talking about weighting the footballs when it comes down to these things being 8 pounds. 8 pounds. A typical football is around a pound. 8 pounds, very, very heavy, right? And I was handed one, and when I had it and I took it in my hand, I was expecting like a regular football, right? And this thing was so heavy that like my arm kind of fell, and then I could feel the center of gravity change within the football. So what they're working with are footballs that are not easy to handle, let's say. And if you want to see some of the drills that they were working on, as well as some of the photos, you can head over to my X account, at Ross Jackson Nola, my Twitter account, and you'll find some photos and stuff like that I posted. So there's this piece, right? Then all of a sudden, Derek Foster has boxing gloves on, like straight up boxing gloves. And as they're kind of running these bag drills, strafing left and right, Derek Foster's punching at the football with these boxing gloves. And so they're working on, ball carrying, ball security, all these other things. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because just a couple of days ago, we spoke with Alvin Kamara, who talked a lot about fumbles in games being a thing that ended up impacting this team because maybe stuff was being seen in practices, maybe those fumbles, for instance, that weren't being called out and weren't being addressed. Here is an example of the coaching staff getting ahead of that. And Derek Foster introducing drills that are specifically built to help you hold on to the football. And let me knock on wood here. We haven't seen any fumbles by the New Orleans Saints running back so far throughout training camp. And trust me, we will be watching that very closely because we're seeing the sort of focus and therefore the coaching accountability for making sure that that does not happen. So that was really, really good to see. The other thing that really stood out to me about the run game today was really the first time that we've seen like big plays from the run game that you could tell, oh, they opened up a big hole and the running back was able to run right through. There was another one where Jordan Mims just okey-doked somebody off of, I actually think that was off of a swing pass, but, using the short passing game as an extension of the run game is a big thing that the New Orleans Saints have always wanted to do. It's something you should expect this offense to start doing again. There was this big run to the left side off of a stretch run to Jordan Mims to where he got that corner. Another big block by Foster Moreau, which folks like John Hendricks from over at Saints News Network and I cannot stop talking about every single day. And over at Second and Saints, we were just talking yesterday about how Foster Moreau is like this excellent blocker right now and has had some plays that have opened up. In fact, the big touchdown or completion to Mason Tipton doesn't happen without Foster Moreau holding off Cam Jordan in that. And this is Foster Moreau, a tight end, matching up with one of the Saints' best defensive ends. It's been great to see all that. So the run game has really gotten into the point to where it's getting explosive. It's getting explosive, and we're starting to see a little bit of it. Now, we're going to learn a lot more on Monday when it comes to padded practices. We're going to learn a lot more when it gets to those 2 San Francisco joint practices as well. Those 2 things are going to go a long way for this New Orleans Saints team. And of course, what they do in training camp might not be equal to what they do during the regular season. But we're seeing Clint Kubiak's scheme so far work. And it's not only working for the run game, but it's also working for the play action pass. And the 2 are complementing one another. Eric McCoy had a quote in his post-game presser where he was talking about the play action game. And he said, play action is my pride and joy. The more, the better. And he talked about how the play action passing game helps to open up the run game, and then vice versa. Of course, the run game helps to open up the play action passing game. And so we're seeing a lot of that in terms of the run game now percolating a little bit. And no surprise, it's happening at the same time as the passing game is starting to come alive. So now we're seeing both of these elements start to show up. And the defense is still making its plays. Don't get me wrong. No interceptions today, but we saw several linebackers get into the backfield. We saw some pressure from Carr Granderson, which is becoming like the least surprising thing every single practice now. We saw more great plays from Willie Gay, who broke out to the right sideline, covering an out route to Taysom Hill, I believe it was, where he knocked a pass away on a pass breakup. We even saw a forced fumble today that was recovered by Kool-Aid McKinstry when they decided to play through on a Bub Means reception and all these other things. So the defense is still finding its ways to have an impact, but it's getting to look like what we wanted to see from this team, what we talked about weeks ago and what Dennis Allen talked about days ago, which is that you want to see the offense throw a punch and the defense throw a punch. And then the offense throw a punch and like they should be evenly matched. They shouldn't be one side dominating the other side or anything like that. So that is one of the big things that I would definitely highlight when it comes to what is positive coming out of camp so far. There have been some negative things coming out of camp so far, and in particular, injuries. I want to update on that. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the vibes, the general energy of training camp, because I got to tell you, things are just simply different than they were in the past. We got that coming up for you as we continue on and wrap up today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn wants to help you find the qualified candidates you want to hire for your small business faster and for free. So you know you want to go and check out LinkedIn Jobs today. It's not just your everyday job board. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. I know that when I was searching for jobs on this very campus when I was coming out of college, I didn't go anywhere else but LinkedIn. LinkedIn was always my go-to. And if I had a small business and I was hiring for Locked On Saints, I would be using LinkedIn to find that. That's not true. I would go straight to the Who Dat Nation, but that's okay. Otherwise, I would be using LinkedIn for sure. So if you're not looking at LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours of posting their job. So hire professionals like a professional over on LinkedIn. It's got everything that you need if you're a small business. Wearing so many hats for those small businesses, it simplifies the process and gives you all of the resources that you need to hire. Post your job for free today at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. The New Orleans Saints practices here in training camp feel very different than they did at this time last year, especially just 4 practices in. We appreciate you very much for being here. Don't forget, we are your team every day. Fresh episode tomorrow. We'll be right back at it again Monday morning, live Monday evening. 2-a-days are back. You know how it goes. So we'll be rocking here every single day on Locked On Saints. And make sure you come and check out John and I's show as well over at Second and Saints. Hour long, a lot of conversation between him and I, looking at every single note. We break everything down to special teams that you can come through for. So make sure you come through for that. We'll be live later on today as well, if you're catching the show live right now. Otherwise, you'll be able to catch it on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube as well. All right. So before I go to injuries and stuff like that, because look, when it comes to injuries, we don't know how serious things are. We don't know the severity of stuff. We don't have timelines or anything like that. So I can tell you the players that are going to be injured or that are injured and that have been missing some time, but I can't really give you much more than that because we just don't have that information at this time. But I'll give you all that here in just a second. The thing that I want to focus on real quick is just the energy of camp. This has been the most energetic, vocal camp that I have seen since I began covering this team as a credentialed media member. Remember, I covered it for a few years, but wasn't on site when I was still living out here. But with pads coming on Monday, through the first 4 practices of shorts and shells, we have seen a ton of energy and just mad vibes from this team over the course of the first few days. Everything from the palpable energy that comes from the new coaching staff, Michael Hodges cheering on the linebackers after big plays in teams. You can hear him giving props and attaboys to players from the second level, players all over the defense, all that. You can hear him all day out there. Keith Williams for the offensive guys is probably the biggest, most boisterous personality, cheering on his dudes, all that other stuff. There's a ton when it comes to all of that energy that has been going on from this New Orleans Saints training camp. And so it's starting with that coaching staff. And I'm hearing DA like give corrections and like kind of, you know, being kind of real with some of these players, like giving them notes about stuff they need to get better at and all this sort of stuff, letting them know that they took a play off or something like that. Like you're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff. Like they're really pushing this roster and the roster's responding. Chris Olave, two days in a row, has made big plays downfield. He had that catch over Alante Taylor on Friday. Sorry, I had to remember what day it was. And then today he had another big catch up against or you know, down the field. And in the process of that, he gets up and he starts jawing and chipping at some players and stuff like that. He had a big catch and run today is what it was. And then he turns around and he's got, this guy in his face, and Lucas Patrick is coming up and he's, pushing guys over on the defense, standing up for his guy. Chris Olave, for me, is developing a little bit of the alpha personality. Like, we're starting to see it. I wouldn't have given him that tag through the first 2 seasons, although he did talk a lot over the course of like games and stuff like that. I just didn't see like this stuff from him until now. And so maybe he was an alpha personality at the time, but we just didn't see it as much. We're really seeing it right now, to where he is coming out and he is, letting people know like that he just made that play and that you're just there to watch him make that play, or whatever it is that he's saying to these guys. It just feels different. Like, Chris Olave is the guy in this New Orleans Saints offense now. He is a star player when it comes to the passing game, which is the NFL's favorite part of its offense, right? Are the passing games. It's the big, pretty highlights. It's the big things. They can play the ball floating in slow motion on NFL films and all the other stuff. It's their favorite product. And the guy that's going to be driving a lot of that product from this team is going to be Chris Olave. And so we're seeing a lot of that from him, to where he's kind of having that, like, yeah, I'm him kind of mentality. And I think that's a good thing. It's not diva. It's not any of that kind of stuff. It's just confidence, and it's awesome to see. Beyond that, we're also seeing other guys over the defensive side do that too. Colin Saunders is constantly talking. And that they're about to talk, you're about to start team drills, because right before every team drill, he does the James Brown scream from I Feel Good. And you can hear it from Tustin, for anybody that's familiar with Orange County geography. So I'm loving hearing all that. Lucas Patrick at one point, John Hendricks looked over at me and he was like, oh, there's the Ric Flair woo, because Lucas Patrick helped pave the way for a big block and a big run. And all of a sudden he's running around yelling and screaming and all this other stuff. And so you're really feeling all of that here in practice. And over the course of the past 2 years, I have not experienced that as much. There were moments like, DeMario was always a guy that was out there like talking and having fun and, going back and forth with guys. Colin was always very vocal in practices when they added him last year too. But to see like the coaches out there setting the tone, to see the star players out there setting the tone and kind of going back and forth with one another and all that kind of stuff, it's just been really, really awesome to see. And it's just different. It's just really, really different. So I know a lot of people have asked, like, what's it like? What's the vibe like? Like, that's the vibe. It's really, really energetic. It's really, really boisterous. It's really, really loud. And it's really, really present. And that's, I think, a good thing, because what that tells me is that this team is having a good time. It tells me that this team is enjoying itself. And one of the things that Eric McCoy said after practice, when I asked him about the role that fun plays in adjusting to a new system and improving as a team, he said, when football is fun, it's easy. When it's a business, it's hard. And they're out there having fun. And certainly they're working hard. We see it every single day after practice. There's players still out there on the jugs machine, working with one another, working with their position coach, all the other stuff. They're working, but they're also having a really, really good time when they get out on the field. And I think that is palpable. By the way, Chris Olave gets dog of the day today because of all that jabbing, all that talking, all that jawing that he's been doing. I love to see it. I love that energy. That was my favorite thing playing football, was I wanted that, like the smack talk, all that kind of stuff. And then I didn't mention yesterday, but yesterday was Colin Saunders, was our dog of the day for the same thing, just over on the defensive side. All right, let me give you a couple of updates when it comes to attendance, injuries, things like that. Big thing that I want to mention is that Dennis Allen told us after practice that Brian Brzee, who was not present, was dealing with a foot injury. Somebody here in the chat said CBS Sports reported it. No, Dennis Allen said it in his post-game press conference. And so that's local media asking good questions. That's what we do. And so it was a foot injury. We don't know the severity of it. He doesn't want to go into timeline or anything and stuff like that. But that is something to watch because he's had some nice moments in camp. I would say that I've noticed maybe Nathan Shepard a bit more. I've noticed Christian Boyd a bit more, but he's a big piece to what the New Orleans Saints are going to be doing on the interior. He had a great rookie season, and so hopefully this injury isn't something that sidelines him for too long. And, we'll just kind of have to see. But this is now 4 days in a row. Each of the 4 days, the Saints have lost somebody due to injury. So like I said, a lot of things are going good, But this is one of the things that's not going well. I don't know if it's conditioning. I don't know what it is, but something's not working for the Saints right now when it comes to these injuries. Maybe they're just being overly cautious too. So we'll see. I guess we'll get a better glimpse of that over the course of time. And maybe I'm just being too sensitive about it. But I definitely think that it's something to keep an eye out on, and that hopefully begins to improve here over the next few days. We did not see at practice today Marshawn Lattimore, who is dealing with a hip flexor injury. I would have been shocked to see him out there today. We also did not see Trajan Jeffcoat, Justin Herron, and then, as I mentioned, Brian Brzee. Shane Lemieux, we saw out there. So he left for a couple of days or for a day, but he was back out there working off to the side. Kendre Miller was spotted off to the side as well. We also saw Juwan Johnson and Tano Passanio off to the side watching team drills and all the other stuff. So they're still very connected, even though they're on those injury lists and everything. So that's what the big thing was. And so the next thing that we're watching here is a little bit of a transaction that happens. The Saints needed to add some folks to their offensive line. I don't know that he is going to be long for the team after all of this, but definitely is going to help the team make sure that they have the numbers that they need, have that rotation, all that kind of stuff. Chandler Brewer is who they signed, and then they waived Gardnerori Newley as well, who came in as a undrafted free agent this offseason. So that's what I would look at for all that. So there's your updates for today's camp. I have another episode for you tomorrow at everything, getting you kind of caught up on what we've seen here throughout the week and all these other things. So, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an update for me about has what we've seen from this New Orleans Saints team over the course of the first week been enough to change the way that I look at the New Orleans Saints 2024 season. So we'll break all that down. We appreciate you very much for being here for today's episode, and we'll see you again for tomorrow. Locked on Pels, Locked on LSU definitely deserve your attention as well over the course of training camp. So make sure you go and check them out. We appreciate you very much for making us a part of your day, a part of your routine, for saying yes to me and the show. As always, if you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing. Let me know how you living. Let me know how you momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation, I'll holla at you.